Welcome to episode 11 of Lachie Does Footy. We're going to be reviewing round 10, looking at the tips for round 10, ladder after round 10, and predictions for round 11. And this is the second week of Indigenous round. Gold Coast versus Geelong at TIO Stadium in Darwin. The Gold Coast got up by 64 points in a very high-scoring game. It's one of the highest-scoring games in a long time. Bailey Humphrey kicked 5 goals. He's looking like the new Bailey Humphrey. Jack Lachie with 5 goals. He's starting to look like Jack Rewalt. Ben King kicked 4 goals. Another great game for him. Sam Day kicked 3 goals. Well, he finally showed up after 13 long years. As for Noah Anderson, he had 42 touches himself in the midfield. Matty Rowell played another great game. So too did Sam Flanders. As for Geelong, they've left their players behind in Victoria, except for Tyson Stengel's 3 goals and Max Hobbs' 32 touches. And that's about all to say for Geelong. Sydney versus Carlton at the SCG. Carlton had an early lead in the first quarter. Looked like they were finally going to beat the Swans in Sydney on prime time. But the Swans, they came back in a massive way to win by 52 points. Isaac Heaney's been getting it done once again. 3 goals, 1 and 24 touches for the midfield. And 3 goals for Chad Warner. 28 touches as well. Well, Chad Warner, he's starting to play like Chris Judd. As for Carlton's forward line, Charlie Curnow and Harry Mackay kicked 3 goals between them. The small forwards are quiet again. The only dominant player I see for Carlton at the moment is Nick Newman, having a point to prove against his old team. Collingwood versus Adelaide at the MCG. The Magpies are now back on the driver's seat. They had a 4-point win over the Crows. Jordan De Gully played well, 2 goals, 2 up forward with 26 touches. John Noble was back in the side with 1 goal and 29 possessions. The Dacos brothers are playing very good footy again. As for the Crows, Matty Crouch and Jordan Dawson played great footy alongside Isaac Rankin. Josh Rochelle and Dusty Fogarty kicked 2 goals. As for the Crows, they weren't robbed at the end, but the umpiring needs to be more consistent. GWS versus Western Bulldogs at Edgy Stadium. I understand it's wet weather footy, but 8-22, it was pretty poor. And that was the Western Bulldogs scoreline, but they didn't need to worry. GWS kicked 6 goals, 7 themselves. The ball wasn't much and they're attacking 50. Toby Gray kicked 3 goals alongside Jesse Hogan. As for the Dogs, James Harms and Sam Darcy with 2 goals. Ed Richards played well again in that new role in the midfield, so too with Adam Treloar. As for Nick Keynes, Lachie Whitfield and Harry Himmelberg, they played great on defence. As in hindsight, really, if the Western Bulldogs had kicked straight and the weather was good, they would have won by 97 points. As for Luke Beveridge, he may as well get another year. Fremantle versus St Kilda at Marvel Stadium. Freo got up by 17 points, kicking 9-18 themselves. If they kicked straight, they would have won by 10 goals. Rowan Marshall played great in the ruck for the Saints. When he's your best player, well, you know your team's got problems. Jordan Clark played very good defensively for Freo, so would Luke Ryan. Luke Jackson with 39 headouts in the ruck and 25 touches. Hayden Young and Caleb Sarong played great again in the midfield. Mitchie Owens kicked 3 goals up 4 for the Saints. Anthony Kimatini, 2 goals up 4 for the Saints. Giant Mess, 2 goals, 5. Well, he should drop the Dead-Eye Giant nickname, and he's now Giant A Miss. As for Fremantle, season's back on track, and got a good game coming up. As for St Kilda, well, they may as well rebook their vacations for September. Season done. And that's about it. Brisbane versus Richmond at the Gabba. It's a percentage booster for Brisbane, and they're paying tribute to the 2007 Grand Final event scoreline. Brisbane 163, Richmond 44. Dane Zorko played great for the Lions, so with Lachie Neale. Kai Lyman, 5 goals. Charlie Cameron, 5 goals. Joe Danaher, 3 goals. Cam Rayner, 3 goals. As for Richmond, reserves! Well, they're basically playing the reserve side. And yet the reserve side are going pretty good in the VFL. Their players are not ready for AFL yet. Essendon versus North Melbourne at Marvel Stadium. Bombers got up by 40 points. North Melbourne looked alright at the start, but they fell away at the end. Zach Fisher played another great game down back for the Roos. Harry Sheasel's been also getting a lot of the ball. Peter Wright, 4 goals. Mac Welfie, 3 goals, 3. And Jake Stringer, 2 goals, 1 for Essendon. Luke Davies-Uniacke kicked 2 for North with 27 touches himself. Nick Lachie, attempted to finish 105 goals early in the season. He's kicked 1 goal, 1. It's embarrassing. Port Adelaide versus Hawthorn at Adelaide Oval. What a game that was. Hawthorn were 41 up at half time, but Port Adelaide came back to win by a point. Blake Hardwick kicked 5 goals up forward for Hawthorn and had 132 points on AFL Fantasy. Dan Houston, 3 goals for across half back, had fantasy points 136. Willie Rioli kicked 3 goals as well for Port. Horfrassus with 2 goals and 27 touches. Darcy Bird-Jones 2 goals, including the match winner. Mabiel Chol kicked 2 goals with him back in the side for Hawthorn. As for the last 30 seconds, well, Hawthorn just let Port Adelaide back in the game. West Coast versus Melbourne at Optus Stadium. What an upset! West Coast by 35 points. Jake Waterman, 5 goals. Jack Darling, 3 goals. Harley Reid, 2 goals and 21 touches, although Waterman's looking like the new Kennedy. Liam Ryan kicked 2 goals up forward as well for the Eagles. Bailey Fritsch, 3 goals for Melbourne. Well, Melbourne need to get these easy wins if they want to be a legitimate contender. As for Harley Reid, well, he's made Christian Petrarca look like someone who's working at McDonald's. Now on to tipping time. Gold Coast versus Geelong. I picked the Suns. They won it, got it done. Sydney versus Carlton. I picked the Swans. They got it done. Adelaide versus Collingwood. I picked the Crows. Magpies got it done. GWS versus Bulldogs. I picked the Giants and they lost. I picked the Stockers over the Saints. They won it. Picked Brisbane over Richmond. That was an easy win. Picked Essendon over North Melbourne. They got it done. Port over Hawthorn. I picked the Power, which is a tick. West Coast versus Melbourne. I picked the Demons, and that is a cross. Now we are taking a look at the ladder. First up, we got the Swans. They've won 5 in a row. Pretty much undefeated. Second, we got Essendon. They are starting to hit some form. They finally got their percentage up in the hundreds, being unbeaten in the last 6 games. Geelong are third on the ladder. They've lost 3 in a row. Port Adelaide are 4th, and they've just been scraping them in, and I'm not convinced. 5th on the ladder, we got Collingwood. They're back at the driver's seat. Like I said last week, don't be surprised to see them in the top 4 again. They've been hitting some great form lately. GWS have finished 6th on the ladder. They've only won 1 out of the last 5 games. They've got some work to do, big time GWS. Melbourne are 7th on the ladder. They've won 2 out of the last 5 games, which is pretty poor. They've hit some speed bumps. Gold Coast are in 8th on the ladder. 3 wins out of the last 5. Things are starting to look good for the Suns. They still got a little bit of work to do. There are some teams outside the 8 who can be able to knock off some good opposition and make the 8. Knife got Fremantle. They're in okay form right now. 3 wins out of 5 in the last 5. Carlton 10th on the ladder. They've won 2 out of the last 5 games. It's not looking good right now for the Blues. 11th is the Western Bulldogs. They're looking pretty dangerous, winning 3 out of the last 5 games. 12th is Brisbane Lions. They're back in form. They're starting to knock off some good opposition. 12th on the ladder. And they are pretty much back in the mix. 13th on the ladder, we got Adelaide. They need to win some close games if they want to be a serious threat to make the 8. 14th, we got the Saints. Well, pack your bags. Go for your September vacation because your season is finished. 15th, we got Hawthorn. They could have had 3 wins in a row, but they're starting to get back on track. 16th is the West Coast Eagles. They're starting to look competitive again. And then here's the bottom 2, which will probably not have much to say, which are Richmond and North Melbourne. Western Bulldogs versus Sydney at Marvel Stadium. The Western Bulldogs can be able to go through that game, but they need to kick accurately. That's why I got the Swannies winning by 32 points. Best players for the Western Bulldogs, we got Ed Richards, Marcus Bontempelli, and Sam Darcy with another good game up forward. As for the Swans, I reckon their midfield will be 2 dominant with Chad Warner, Isaac Heaney, Brodie Grundy, and Errol Gordon. Fremantle versus Collingwood at Optus Stadium. Fremantle got wearing the purple version of their Indigenous guernsey they wore last week. And it looked kind of a bit better than the white one. I'd give it a 9 out of 10. As for the game itself, I got Collingwood by 11 points in what would be a very midfield battle. Fremantle, their best players are going with Jordan Clark, Caleb Sarong, and Jeremy Sharp. As for Collingwood, I got Dacos Squad, Scott Pendlebury, and Lachie Schultz. He's got a point to prove against his old club in Perth as well. North Melbourne versus Port Adelaide at Utah Bloodstone Arena in Hobart. Should be an easy win for Port Adelaide, 70 points. Best players for Port Adelaide, well, I hate to say this, North Melbourne fans, I'm going to have to pick the entire Port team for this one. As for North Melbourne, their best player, I'm going to have to go with his Luke Davies-Uniacke. And there's not much to say about North Melbourne at the moment. Carlton versus Gold Coast at Marvel Stadium. Gold Coast have been hitting some great form while Carlton are looking the opposite. As for the new Guernsey, well, their new Guernsey looks better than the one they wore last week for the Indigenous round, so I won't give it a 7.5 out of 10. As for the game itself, I got Gold Coast by 17 points. Best players for the Gold Coast, I got Barley Humphrey and the 2019 draft class trio of Matt Rao, Noah Anderson, and Sam Flanders. As for Carlton, their best players are going with Nick Newman, Paddy Cripps, and surely it's time for the Twin Towers to get their act together. Versus GWS at GMHBA Stadium. GWS have won the last 3 games there. Geelong, they've lost the last 3 games of the season so far. Same with the Giants. Must-win game for both teams. That's why I got the Cats by 11 points. Best players for the Cats, Jeremy Cameron up forward, Max Holmes in the midfield, and Toby Conway in the ruck. As for GWS Giants, I'm going with Stephen Cornelio and Tom Green in the midfield. As for the forward line, I'm going with Jesse Hogan and Toby Green. Richmond versus Essendon, the dream time game at the MCG. Well, Essendon have finally released an Indigenous Guernsey. They're all red design. It's got the Tiwi Islands map on it and a dolphin on it with Indigenous painting. I'll give it a 9.4 out of 10 for Essendon's. As for the game itself, well, Essendon, you get another good one again. 111 points is the final margin. Best player for Essendon, whole entire squad. Richmond, I'm going to have to go with no one. Hawthorn versus Brisbane at Marvel Stadium. Brisbane, they got a bit of a terrible record against Hawthorn in away from home as of recent. But as for the Guernsey, however, Brisbane's away design of their Indigenous Guernsey looked better than the home design. I won't give it an 8.6 out of 10, but it's got red on the bottom instead of maroon. As for the game itself, I got the Hawks by a point in an upset. Best players for Hawthorn, I'm going with Blake Hardwick, John Newcomb, and Will Day. Brisbane, I'm going with Dane Zorko and Charlie Cameron, alongside Lachie Neale. Melbourne versus St Kilda at the MCG, also known as the Caden McDonald versus Cardman 22 derby, considering they both love their Melbourne and St Kildas. As for the new Guernseys, I got, well, Melbourne's Indigenous Guernsey looks a bit better than last week's one because the dark blue stands out better than the light blue. I give it an 8 out of 10. As for St Kilda's Guernsey, well, the white stands out better in that one than what yellow did. I'll give that a 9.6 out of 10. As for the game itself, I got Melbourne by 27 points. Best players, I got Christian Petrarca, Max Gawn, and Jack Billings. Point to prove against his old team. As for the Saints, we got Jack Steele, Rowan Marshall, and Nasiah Wanganeen-Malera. Adelaide versus West Coast at Adelaide Oval. The Crows need to win that game to keep their season alive. As for West Coast, their season's pretty much practically done, but they're looking competitive. We got the Crows by 41 points for this match. Best players for the Crows, I'm going with Matt Crouch, Jordan Dawson, and Isaac Rankin. West Coast Eagles, I'm going with Harley Reid and Jake Waterman, and that's about it. Thank you for watching episode 11 of Lachie Does Footy. I hope you enjoy it. We'll see you soon for episode 12, which is the first round of bye week. We'll also look at the breakout players for the teams that had the bye and see if they exceeded my expectation or not. And also, potentially, we might have some challenges coming up.